This is Abe Friedtanzer from Ward's Radar, and I'm so thrilled to be speaking with Anne Harada about Schmigadoon. How are you, Anne?
I'm very well, thank you.
Can you tell me about the process of you getting attached to this show in the first place?
Well, like most people, I auditioned for it. And it was during the pandemic. So I remember having my call back in the basement of my mother's mother-in-law's house on Cape Cod. And the casting director saying to me after the audition, nice ironing board, because they could see it in the background. But like that's how it is during the pandemic. You kind of like do it where you have to do it.
Of course. And what appealed to you about the role of Florence?
Oh, well, everything. It was basically a chance to be able to be in a musical when nobody could be in a musical. And to be able to do it with such incredible theater stars was really exciting. And I was just delighted to have the opportunity to have a job and to, put a musical out there into the world.
What was the filming experience like? Was it more like a TV show or more like a Broadway musical?
Oh, it was more like a TV show because the pandemic, we were very isolated for the first 2 weeks. We were just sort of locked in our rooms and we couldn't leave. And so there were a lot of rehearsals over Zoom and things like that, which are just terrible. But it was a fascinating experience. And I'm really glad that it happened, obviously.
And you take a slight pivot for season two into a different kind of role. Did
Yes.
you know that that would be happening from the start?
No. I think that's the great fun of Schmigadoon in general is you kind of never know what you're going to get. And that Cinco trusts us to sort of be able to be all these different people. I mean, after all, we all contain multitudes. You know what I mean? It's like any of us can play any of the parts, really. He just has to decide who's going to play what. And then we're like, great.
What was most fun about Madame Frau?
Oh, I love her so much. She's very tough and strong. And I just look at her as a survivor, and it's inspirational. I mean, she does it in kind of a mean way, but she's a survivor.
Yeah, there are really some impressive musical numbers on this show. Do you have any ones that you find most memorable that either you enjoyed being a part of or those you got to watch? I feel like you got to watch a lot happen also without
Of course.
necessarily being part of
Well, my favorite number to watch over and over again was I need to eat because that whole sequence just made me laugh so hard. And to be a part of it was thrilling. And also to sort of deliver the Debbie Allen speech from Fame. Everything about all those references really resonated with me. Not because I'm a dancer, but because I grew up then. And these are kind of like the musicals that I heard around me when I was growing up. And so I love them very much.
Well, you're used to live theater, but there's so much humor and parody in this show. Does it make it difficult to get through takes without laughing?
Sometimes, I mean, it was particularly difficult for me. Most times, no. Um, it all just sort of depends on like the setup. Sometimes, there's just the stakes are so high. Things happen in Schmigadoon, Chicago, and you're like, oh my God, like it's really great. It really feels like we're filming a musical. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like being in a stage production because it's like it's the same old cast. We trust and kind of know each other and everything like that. But in a way, it's just so fresh because it's TV and it's a fascinating medium to try to translate that world into.
Of course, you were previously in a TV show that was about making a musical,
Yes, I
which is
was.
another, world of that.
Yes, I'm basically a big meta thing. Like I operate in many worlds.
You have a preference and do you find you perform differently when you have a live audience versus for television or
Of
film?
course, you perform differently. Of course, it's different. It's different. The beauty of Schmigadoon, though, is that when you sing a song, you don't have to sing to 1,000 people and make sure they can all hear you and see you. It's like it's just me and you, Seth. It's just me and you. You know what I mean? It's like I don't have to work that hard to make everybody hear me and see what I'm doing. So there's something great about the intimacy of that, but still the emotion and the intensity are just as high in front of the camera as they are on the stage. So it's not that different, really.
You had a chance to see any parts of the show with an audience?
No. Well, that's not true. We when we did the Apple event at the Apple store, the weirdest thing in history. And we got to rent some of the clips. It was really fun to see the audience respond to like jokes that we knew were coming and stuff like that. I just love what this show has done in a way for bringing musicals to like the wider world. I feel like there's such a huge audience out there for this, and maybe some of them discovering it like as a new thing, and maybe some who are just so tickled that they get to see a musical presented like this. I just feel like there's a whole community of people out there who are so excited about it every minute of every episode, and it's thrilling.
I think I'm somewhere in between because like I like musicals, but I'm a movie and TV guy, so I haven't seen that many musicals, and as a result, I probably miss half the references, but I do get some, and I know there are some people who are watching exclusively for every single reference, and like it is very rewarding, I think, if you're doing that.
Oh, sure. But I mean, you can also enjoy it if you're just sort of a
Of course.
casual, fan like yourself. Uh, but I mean, I think things are funny on their own terms, but it's always nice to have that extra layer of knowledge, if you have it, great. But if you're not, still going to have a good time.
Well, I spoke to Kristen Chenoweth, and one of the things I asked her was about some of her most well-known Broadway roles, how they might translate to this show. Like, I'm curious, is there a Schmigadoon season 6 or 7 that has an Avenue Q parody in there, and what does that look like?
Honey, if there is, I'm all over it, and I'm hopeful that the denizens of Avenue Q meet up with the denizens of Oz. Do you know what I mean? That would be great because we did share the street at the same time. We were kind of like all in the mix together, and that would just be heaven. But we've still got to get renewed for next year. I mean, who can play that far in the future at this point?
Well, I think Into the Woods also sort of lends itself well to this show because that's sort of what this show is. It's bringing together a bunch of characters from musicals and putting them in there. And I wonder because some of these shows really are parodies in themselves in some ways, and so it's strange to then take that and turn a comedy musical into a parody musical.
Stranger things have happened. And I feel like if anybody can do it, it's Cinco. I think he's such a genius because he loves the forms so much, and he instinctively knows what's weird about them. Um, you know, um, but it's just for me, it's just thrilling to sort of like be a part of this world and to be able to like bring musicals again, like more out there to say, like, see, it's not just Broadway, it's there's musicals everywhere and you can enjoy them.
Well, while that is true, what are your plans next as they relate to Broadway?
None. As they relate to Broadway, none. I'm doing a lot of readings of new musicals here in New York. I have some summer work out of town, not Broadway. I don't know. Um, I Your guess is as good as mine about what happens in my life. But like that's kind of the fun of it, I think. It's just not knowing.
Is there something that you feel like you want to do that you haven't tried yet, just in terms of a medium or a type of role?
I feel like I would be very happy to be in Schmigadoon for the rest of my life if Apple would let me. That's sort of how I feel. And I also feel like this is probably going to be my most lasting legacy because so many stage performances, they come and they go, and then you're remembered by the people who saw you, but maybe there weren't that many people, right? So I'm hopeful that like in this way, people will go like, oh, that's Harada. She sang, she did stuff like this, and it'll be great.
Well, I think you have a pretty great legacy with Avenue Q and other things, but the more Schmigadoon, the better. I'm all for it.
Me too.
So, well, thank you so much, Anna. It was really nice to meet you. Thanks for taking a few minutes.
Thank you.